This is episode 2. So in episode 1, I spoke about why I'm doing this series, why truth is so important in today's society, what truth actually is. And if you want to see that, please go back to episode 1. Today, I want to talk about the 4 stages of truth. And so, just a very, very quick recap on episode 1. We talked about truth being everything that is not fear, everything that is not hate, everything that is not judgment, and it's unchangeable for all eternity. So it can never, ever, ever change. And today I want to talk about the 4 stages of truth. And this is how I experience truth in my spiritual journey. And so the first stage is living in the illusion of separation. So what is the illusion of separation? The illusion of separation is thinking that it's just you and you need to do whatever it takes to go ahead and to get ahead and to create a status for yourself, so going up the ladder. And the illusion of separation is that we're not connected, that we're all separate, that it's me versus you, and I need to do what it takes so that I can achieve, I can succeed, I can obtain as many material things as possible. And so within this illusion, we also want validation from other people to tell us how good we are, to tell us that we're okay, to tell us that we are worthy. We forget that we actually have something greater inside of us, and we're unconscious to anything greater than us. So it is separation consciousness, and it is about establishing and defending an identity. And so this is the stage where we're always trying to achieve at school. We try and go to university, get our degrees, get our diplomas, get into the workforce, and we define ourselves by how much we're earning. And so this is the separation of illusion. So for me, what that looked like was actually being that really good girl at school who did as much study as possible to get the highest possible mark so that I can prove that I'm smart, so that I could go to university, get my degrees, get my diplomas, and then do whatever I can in the corporate world to keep moving up that corporate ladder. And so this is the illusion of separation, where we think that we need to do certain things in order to be worthy. And for me, what that looked like was working 22 years in the corporate world and really doing my best to work very hard and keep earning that extra income, so that I can get the bigger house, so that I can get the better car, so that I can get the things that I thought in society was necessary to prove our worth. So that is the first stage of truth, which is living in the illusion. So I'm going to take you through in this video the 4 stages of truth until we go from the illusion to embodying truth. And that first stage is all about the work ethic. It's all about looking a certain way. It's all about achievements. It's all about working towards goals. It's all about ensuring that we feel that we're loved from the people around us because we can't find it within ourselves. And so for me, that was the time where everybody was doing the same thing as me. Everybody was working hard, studying hard, doing whatever they could just to get through the day. And it was a period of time where we don't like Sunday nights because Monday means we're going to work. And I know for me, what actually used to happen on Sunday nights is I used to get like heart palpitations because I would have to go to work the next day. And there was this feeling of dread of going to work the next day. And it's this absolute belief that this is what life is about. It's about really just working hard, looking forward to our weekends and our holidays, and that's it. And then we die. So is that the real truth? Is that what life is supposed to be? No. And so then when we start to become frustrated and we start to question, is this what life is really about? Like for me, when I started to question everything was I was working 22 years in corporate, and I just sat there one day and said to myself, oh my God, I've got at least another 22 years ahead of me because I'm nowhere near paying off my mortgage. So every single day of my life, I'm going to be fighting the traffic to go into the central business district of the city of Melbourne, to work for somebody else, to do the things somebody else wants me to do, so that I could fight the traffic back home, so that I could hurry up and do dinner, so that we could wash up the dishes, so that we could go to sleep and do it all again until the weekend. And I can't do this for another 22 years. So that's when it occurred to me that I cannot do this for another 22 years. There is no way. And so then I made a decision that something had to change in my life. The very next day, because the moment you make a decision that something needs to change, the universe listens to you and it's going to give you the first doorway. That's what actually happens. And the thing is, it has to be an absolute decision. So my decision was, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm not going to do this corporate work for another 22 years. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's not going to be this. And the very next day, when I went to the gym, in the shower of the gym, I was talking to a lady and I said to her, so what did you get up to on the weekend? And she said, oh, I'm doing a hypnotherapy course. And so all of a sudden something inside me went, oh, this is interesting. What's this about? Is this something I can do? And it just started the path towards me doing what I needed to do. And so the second stage of truth is the awakening spark. There's like a spark that comes in that tells you, I don't think I'm alone in this world. I don't think I have to fight alone in this world. I don't think I have to struggle alone in this world. I don't think I have to suffer alone in this world. There is something else going on in my universe that is there. I don't know what it is, but there's something else. Because how did I have this conversation with this person exactly when I decided that I was not going to work in corporate for another 22 years? And from that point, one door opened. And the thing is, with those doors, people think that they need to know what the 5-year plan looks like, what the 10-year plan looks like, but you don't. You only need to be presented with the next door. And then once you walk through that door, you will then be presented with another door. And then you walk through that door, and then you will be presented with another door. And this just continues for the rest of your life, because you're only going to be walking through the door that you are ready to walk through. So what actually happened was, at that stage, was I was trying to work out, what am I supposed to do? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And I made inquiries and I decided I would start with a hypnotherapy course. And slowly but surely, I did this on the side whilst I was still working in the corporate world. And then eventually that became my full-time job. I was able to not only earn the same amount of money as I was earning in the corporate area, but I actually exceeded it. But here's the thing, I was still working super, super hard, actually harder, because I was working on weekends as well. I never had weekends off now that I had my own business, but there was this incredible pull inside of me to keep going, to keep going. It felt very different to when I was working in the corporate world and I felt strangled and trapped and working for somebody else. So what actually then ended up happening was that I was working very hard. I was building my business. I started to train other hypnotherapists in my systems, in my therapy system, and in my business system. And then I'm going to tell you about something that really awakened me to the truth that we are not alone and that there is another force greater than me that is actually holding me and supporting me. So I am a massive Elvis Presley fan. I love Elvis Presley. And I was looking at a documentary one day, and it was a documentary of Graceland, which is where he lived and where his final resting place is. And I made a decision that day that no matter what, I was going to visit Graceland. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't know where I was going to do it in my busy schedule, but I was going to visit Graceland. There's no way that I am going another year without going to Graceland because I love Elvis Presley. And so, as a huge fan, I needed to do what fans do and go to his house, right? And so the very next day, so this is what happens the moment you make a decision, the very next day something happens, especially when it's a decision and there are no doubts. Like I had no doubts inside me that I was going to go to Graceland the following year. The very next day I get an email from an event coordinator in the United States who invited me to speak at his conference, his hypnosis conference in St. Louis, Missouri. And the first thing I did was I Googled how far is St. Louis from Memphis, which is where Elvis Presley's resting place is. And it was a 4.5 hour drive. So I responded immediately to the event coordinator who had this amazing conference in St. Louis and said, yep, I'm coming. So bearing in mind that I had to still pay for my own airfares, I had to still pay for my own ticket into the conference. All my expenses were mine, but it was like, well, this is fantastic. This is going to be a tax-deductible trip now. I can then go to Memphis. I can go to Tupelo, where Elvis was born. I'm going to make this all about Elvis, and I'm going to also go out of my comfort zone and present to an international audience. And so what that did was, even though I was so ridiculously busy, it forced me to create an online program, which at the time was called the 15 Steps to Hypnosis Business Success, because I was thinking, well, if I'm going to the United States, I can't do my usual thing and invite everybody to a retreat because I won't be there. So I need to sell them an online program. And this was the first hypnosis business system created in the world. And so that's how it works. Basically, the universe just pushes you along, you follow the yellow brick road, and you just do the next perfect step. And from that conference, my career just catapulted to the next level where I was presenting in all different places in the United States. So Boston, Chicago, Las Vegas, you name it. I was just presenting everywhere. I was going to the States 4 times a year. I had gone to London to present. So then from those synchronicities and the universe holding me in that way, because I was prepared to say yes to something that scared me and I was prepared to step outside of my comfort zone, I was catapulted into a new timeline where all of a sudden I was an international speaker and leader in my field, where I had written a book, I had online systems, I had live retreats and online retreats. I created the world's first hypnotherapy, global hypnotherapy clinic, as I had 22 clinics across the globe in the United States, Canada, United Kingdom, New Zealand, Australia. And I knew that I was absolutely being supported. So this is where I was in stage 2. And stage 2 is all about knowing that there is something greater than me, but not knowing how it works. But knowing that when I follow the joy and when I follow what the obvious next step is in front of me, that things will just happen. So synchronicities started to occur, which were just, absolutely crazy. All these things were happening and lining up in front of me without me having to do anything. And so then, after that miraculous stage of suddenly going from a hypnotherapist that just saw clients in my lounge room, I suddenly had the world's first hypnotherapy global clinic. And life was pretty crazy in that stage. Very, very crazy. Like there would be tours that I was doing. So every single day when I was on tour, I would be going to a different city, doing my half-day workshop, which led to my retreat, which led to the partnership program. And so it was really crazy. I was running on adrenaline. Basically, my adrenal system was at critical levels because I was so exhausted. And interestingly, just before COVID hit, I actually was saying to myself, I can't do this anymore. This is taking too much out of me, all this travel. And then COVID hit, and it almost felt like COVID was happening for me because it forced me to pivot and to go online, which I did very successfully. So, all that to say, that sounds like the perfect success story. You know, I had two businesses. One was the clinic and one was my training arm, both seven-figure businesses. But bearing in mind, I was working so hard and elevating the business to the next level all the time that I just kept putting all the money back into the business. It wasn't like the money was hitting my bank account because everything I was earning was going back into the business, back into the business. So the next stage, which is the third stage of truth. So let's just remind ourselves what the first two stages are. The first stage is basically the illusion of separation. So you live in the illusion of separation. And the stage number two is when there's some sort of awakening spark. You start to see, oh, this is weird how this is all happening. There is a universe out there that is doing something miraculous for me. It's working for me. And then when we hit the third stage is what happened to me is I had a spiritual awakening in the third stage. And this happened for me in July 2021, the 7th of July 2021, when I had a plant medicine ceremony. And what happened in that ceremony was totally miraculous. I actually went through the veil and I saw the illusion and I saw the truth and I felt the truth. And I saw that the illusion was just a stage that we're all on. So this planet that we all think is the truth, the way that we live and the way that we think that we need to live and all the shoulds that we have in our life, that's just the illusion. So what I saw was the behind the scenes of my life. I saw everything. I saw how we were all interrelated, how I chose my parents so that I could be a certain type of personality, so that I could do what I needed to do in this lifetime. I saw that every single thing that ever happened in my life was perfect and connected me to the greater tapestry of life. I saw it all and it blew me away. I saw how every single thing, even the things that were the most challenging moments of my life, were absolutely needed to happen to lead me to the place that I am today. And I saw that every single story we believe is just a story that we believe, and that's why it gets created. Like the story that we don't have enough money is a story that we buy into, that we believe to be true. The story that if I get more money, it means you have less money, as opposed to knowing that there is infinite abundance in the universe and it's effortless if we just go with the flow. And so everything was presented to me in terms of what the truth really is. And so that seeing the truth, which is the stage 3, I was awakened, but I still hadn't embodied the truth, because it's one thing to know something, it's another thing to actually let go of all your doubts and all your fears and step into the truth. And so I was still well, initially when I first had my spiritual awakening, I was determined to do whatever it took to live this embodied life of truth. But it doesn't happen just like that. There's too many layers that we need to get rid of. There's too many belief systems, there's too many stories. And we have been programmed through thousands of years of programming to believe that we are smaller than who we actually are, so that we can stay in this state of being small, as opposed to knowing the truth of who we really are, which is a God spark. God is actually inside all of us, and yet we do not acknowledge that. We do not feel that, because we allow our fears and our doubts to block those feelings. And so that actual moment where I had awakened to the truth, I was convinced that I would be living a life of truth from that day onwards. Little did I know that that was just the very, very, very beginning. That there were still so many attachments I had. I still needed to work out who I was. I was still half in and half out, because even though I didn't want to have any fears or any doubts, the further I went away from that plant medicine ceremony, the more they started to creep back in. And so there's this half in and half out where you're on the threshold. So you are on the threshold of truth, but you're still not fully embodying truth. And I'll give you an example what this stage looks like. So what that stage looks like is, so I closed down one of my businesses, which is the most profitable business, only because I couldn't do that hustle anymore. I just couldn't do it. It was making me sick. And even though what I was doing was beneficial to mankind and it was the highest integrity, I couldn't do it anymore. And so I stopped my business, which was one of the hardest things I had to do. I ended up selling my house. I ended up using the money to pay off my son's loan, because I felt that he didn't understand how the universe provided effortless abundance, and I did. But then I still had attachments, even though I was unaware of all the attachments I had. I had to face every single one of them. For example, I started these spiritual retreats along my new formed beliefs and my new understanding of how the universe works. And they didn't succeed the way that I wanted them to succeed. So I was still attached to an outcome. I was still attached to getting a certain amount of money coming into my bank. I was still attached to people liking me. I was still attached to followers. All of that is attachments. And all those attachments keep you small and suffocated and living in the illusion. And the thing is, with the illusion, you can't be half in and half out. If you're actually half out, you're completely out. And this leads me to stage number 4, which is the embodied truth. So stage number 1 is the illusion of separation, believing that we are all separated, that we all have to fight in this world and work really hard to achieve all the things that people can think we're great, so we can be rewarded with really good material things. And we're trapped in this belief of that it has to be a certain way in order to get a certain outcome, and that certain outcome will make us happy. Stage 2 is the awakening spark, where things start to drop in and you think, oh, that's interesting. Is that a coincidence, or is that synchronicity? There must be something greater than me. And all of you, if you feel into it, you would have felt there was some miracle that happened in your life. Something that you may have said, oh, this is just a coincidence. And a coincidence is 2 incidences together. And so yes, it is a coincidence, but who created the coincidence? I would bet that who created it is your spirit team, is God, is your higher self, who knows the big majestic plan that you agreed to before you came onto earth. And the third stage is the threshold of truth, where we see it, we're awakened to the truth. Oh my God, this is just a playground on planet Earth. We're here to evolve, we're here to learn, we're here to experience, and everything needs to be experienced. The things that we consider to be dark need to be experienced, as well as the light, because how do we know light if we don't know dark? So there's so many things to be experienced in this third stage, and recognizing that everything is happening for us and not to us. Everything, every single bad thing that we consider to be bad is not bad. It's just an experience, because that's why we're here, to experience it all. And then the final stage, which I've got to say, I am not in the final stage. I believe that I am in stage 3, but I know what stage 4 is, which is the embodied truth. And the reason that I know what stage 4 is I've had glimpses of it. I have felt it. I have felt the power of God, which is unshakable, which nothing can shake it. Nobody can shake it. It's full surrender, full living in flow, no attachments, experiencing miracles and magic and effortless abundance, and everything happens the moment you don't even know you want something, it's already appeared in front of you. So there's no expectations, there's no attachments. It's purely the beautiful flow state. And so I believe that I can see that fourth stage clearly. Am I completely in it? Not yet. But I'm doing everything I can to be in it. I'm looking at every single belief that I have and asking myself, is that true? I am looking at every attachment I have and saying, why are you still not trusting? I'm observing every single thought that comes into my mind. I'm observing everything, all my dreams, all my thoughts, all my beliefs. And what I ultimately want, and the reason that I'm doing this series with you guys, is I want to have complete and total and whole embodied truth. Because that's all that matters. That's all that we're about, is to remember the truth of who we are. And the truth of who we are is so beautiful and so perfect, and we don't need to do anything to get it. We don't need to achieve anything. We don't need to have a certain amount of followers. We don't need to have a certain amount of people liking us. We don't need anything from anybody, because we know the truth of who we are. We don't need to defend ourselves, because we know the truth of who we are. Doesn't mean we sit on our bum and we wait, but we're constantly acting on inspiration. We're constantly acting on whatever is coming to us that we need to do. As an example, for me, I had this inspiration to start a new podcast series called Live in Truth. Live in Truth. And this is exactly what this series is going to be about, is living in truth. How do we live in truth? So the first episode is what is truth. The second episode, which is today, is the 4 stages of truth. And then in the next episodes, I'm going to be talking about the 8 spiritual truths that I learned on my spiritual awakening back in 2021. And then we're going to be looking at all the things in the world and all the events that happen, and how we can actually perceive those events through the eyes of truth. If this video resonates with you, I love to hear your comments. I love for you to subscribe, and I'm going live every single week to talk about my favorite topic, which is truth. Because nothing else matters except who you really are and why you're really here. And nothing else matters. And the thing is, when we embody the truth, everything is easy, everything is peaceful. So I can honestly say that I've never been as peaceful as I am at this stage of my life. That no matter what's going on around me, I am at peace. I have found my center. And that's all we need, is to find our center and to find our peace. And I want to do that for you too, so that you can understand how powerful you are, how perfect you are, exactly the way you are, with all your craziness, with all your weird stuff, with all the things that other people think are not perfect, including yourself. It's about letting all of that go and just sitting beautifully into the truth of who you really are. So remember this, always, always, always live in truth. Until next time, this is Eleni.